Hi, everyone. Welcome to people joining us here on Riverside, on LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're doing a regular Wednesday office hours session. And if you're not familiar with the format, it's a 25-30 minute hands on session where one of Luzmo team members joins us to do a quick show and tell. We normally pick one topic, and today's topic happens to be making the most of Luzmo MCP server. And we're lucky to have our VP of product, Jasper, today with us. Jasper, over to you. Please tell us a few words about this session and what to expect.
Hey, Lena, thanks. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Luzmo MCP, why we built it, what it's for, because it's definitely a little bit different from what you might already be familiar with from other tools you're using, and then open it up for questions and use cases to discuss. And I'm happy to show a lot and share a lot with those use cases and questions. Um, Lena, to kick it off, shall I just start at the basics and share what is MCP and how does that factor into using Luzmo?
I think it's a great idea because during our previous session at the CT time zone, we actually had a few questions about it. So I think the best way to kick things off is to walk us through MCP 101, what it actually is. And I think another good question that we can answer upfront is the difference between using Luzmo capabilities via an API or using an MCP, if there's a difference and if there is a preference depending on the use case. So let's start with that.
Yes, I'll start with that. All right, all the way at the beginning in MCP, I think most are familiar with that, but it's a communication layer to connect external tools into an agent, and that can be an agent that you're building. It can be an agent tool you're using like Cloud Code. And it's used in different ways, but the most familiar way is, let's say you're using a product like Notion or Google Docs, that you would use an MCP to work with something like Notion or Google Docs from whatever agent you're using yourself. So you would connect Google Docs to the Cloud MCP, and instead of creating a new document, tell Claude to, hey, I just had a conversation with you about a topic. Please write a document about that and save that to Google Docs. So that's about you as a user using that product. With Luzmo, because we're all about embedded analytics and helping you get insights to your customers, our MCP is entirely built around embedding. Our MCP is meant and built with the use cases in mind. Let's say you build an agent for your users to work with your product. If you want to add data capabilities, data analysis capabilities to that, you can use our MCP to quickly plug in data analysis into your already existing agent. You might have an MCP yourself that you're offering to your users, so user-facing MCP. If you want to give that user-facing MCP data analysis capabilities through Luzmo, you can plug in our MCP as a building block, a capability inside your own MCP. So that's how we build it. You need a few extra layers for that compared to regular MCP. For one, we allow different ways of authenticating a user so that you can easily plug our MCP into your authentication, so that if a user logs into your MCP or your agent or platform, it's very easy to pass on the exact data access and rights and settings of that user to our MCP, so that it uses the same behavior as an agent as your users already used to. Obviously, there are all kinds of settings you want to set, like you're using your own styling, theming, custom prompting, tone of voice, context. You can all pass that into the MCP programmatically, so that if you use it embedded inside your own agent, inside your own MCP, you can control everything like that programmatically, even on a user, or if you want to go that granular, on a conversation basis. So that's what it's meant for. And Lena, I'll show a few examples of what you could do with that. But the previous session, we also got some questions about what then if I want something to make it easy to work with Luzmo. So I'm a Luzmo customer, user. I want to connect data sets, add some formulas, derived columns, build dashboards. What if I want to do that through tools like Cloud Code, Codex, Cursor? Well, for that, we have our Luzmo agent skills. So if you're interested in that, search for Luzmo agent skills, or Lena will provide a link in chat. And Luzmo's agent skills are a broad set of skills that combine with our API and this MCP to give you as a Luzmo builder all the tools to quickly build anything with Luzmo through AI. And the reason we picked skills for this instead of a full-blown MCP that covers all these bits is that Luzmo is already an API-first product. So anything you can do with Luzmo in the UI, you can also do through our public API. So with an additional layer of skills that inform your agent on best practices, common pitfalls, it's very easy for any agent nowadays to just work directly with our API and build with Luzmo. So that's not, happy to answer questions there. That's not the primary topic I want to share here, but since most people are also interested, hey, how can it be easier for me to build with Luzmo through AI? Have a look at Luzmo's agent skills. All right, back to the MCP, and please fire away questions if you have them, or if you want me to cover certain topics, ask me and I'll do that. But to share a bit more about an MCP, I'm going to show my screen, and bear with me here for a second. So we often like to use our demo app Sales Compass, which is a sales app like HubSpot could be, Salesforce could be. And you see some more traditional embedded analytics here, but you also see a chat. This is Luzmo IQ. It's a chat that plugs into your already available Luzmo data with an agent built by us to answer questions about data, like who are my main competitors. And this is really cool to have inside your UI. But this chat on here is specifically about data. If you want to, if you already have an agent and already have a chat in your platform and you want to plug in Luzmo's data analysis capabilities as well, MCP is a perfect way to go. And I'll show an example of that later. But what we also see with a lot of our customers is that the web UI or any UI is not the only channel that users are now using to interact with your product, your data, and get some insights. Because in this case, I'm a user, in this case, Marcus here. I'm logged into my Sales Compass account and I'm interacting here with the Sales Compass platform. But I might also want to do this from a tool like Cloud Code. And we see more and more users for simple questions, if they don't need to do deep work, not log into applications anymore, but just ask that question in the chat they already have open in a tool like Cloud Code. That is something where an MCP is also very useful. Let me switch my screens and share how that would look. Because on top of MCP, we put an additional layer inside that MCP, which is called an MCP app. And an MCP app is an extension of MCP, which allows MCPs to also create UI components. So you see my cloud desktop app here, and I'm connected to the Sales Compass MCP. And when I ask the question about sales over time, it's showing me a live interactive Luzmo chart generated by the Sales Compass MCP. So I can ask all kinds of questions, the same type of questions I can ask inside the chat that I was just showing in the Sales Compass product, but I can ask the same questions here, like who are my main competitors? And I just tell it to look at Sales Compass and maybe not one of the other tools I'm connected to or I have data in. So Cloud will figure out, hey, I actually have an MCP connected for Sales Compass that can do this. The MCP has an answer question tool, and it will use that tool to answer this question and generate a chart. And since these interactive charts are exactly the same type of component that I was just showing in the app in dashboards, I could easily add a function here, add a button to save these charts to a dashboard or a page that already exists in Sales Compass. And that's really cool because then the user experience becomes really fluid. With an MCP app like this, it doesn't matter as a user if I want to work here and save this chart back to the Sales Compass application, or if I started a conversation or work in my Sales Compass app, and then at some point want to pick it up and continue in Cloud because I want to pull in other third-party data. If Sales Compass would be a real Luzmo customer, they would need to do very little work to get this done, because they would basically expose our MCP under their own branded name with their own settings to their users, and everything like the ability to show live apps here in Cloud or any third-party tool, the ability to answer questions based on data that's already existing and connected to Luzmo, all of that comes for free out of the box. Glancing quickly at the chat to see if we already have some questions coming in, but not yet. Let me then jump back to that first example I mentioned, a case that we're starting to see a lot. People will build their own in-house agent. So we could have a Sales Compass agent, and we want to plug in different capabilities in there. So Sales Compass as a product, you expect as a customer that a chat there could do different things. It should be able to answer questions from a knowledge base. It should hopefully be able to do some work. Let's say a new sales rep is onboarding. I could tell the chat, hey, add this new account, send that person the onboarding package, etc. But of course, with a data intensive product, you also want to give it the ability to answer data questions. And as an example of that, and Lena, I'll need a bit of time here to switch environments and to show that example, like I did earlier in the day.
Sure, no worries. Take your time. Like we discussed, the format is very hands-on, very show and tell. So it's really good that you're running a live demo for us here.
I'm out of focus. There I am again. Yeah, someone has to interrupt me with a question for me to stop demoing. Otherwise, I will keep the demos up. Yeah, we're connected. I'm going to share my screen again. So there are different ways, of course, to build your own agents. But a common way that we see with our customers is customers that rely on the OpenAI Agents SDK or the Cloud Agent SDK. And there are definitely some others that we see a lot. But those are SDKs that basically mimic agents like Codex or Cloud Code, but then help you to build an agent like that for your own product with your own tools connected and your own context, your own prompting, and own behavior. So let's say you already have an agent set up that uses OpenAI Agents SDK or Cloud Agent SDK. Then there's something really, really useful and simple these SDKs can do. You can configure them to use other MCP servers or MCP servers and include those into their capabilities and tools. So what I did here is I have two chats on my screen, one built with the OpenAI SDK, the other with the Cloud SDK. And I added the Luzmo hosted MCP in there. It's just one line configuration. And I added two other MCP servers, Astral documentation and Cloudflare documentation. There's no particular reason to add those other than that those don't need an account and authentication, so it's easy for me to add. And with that, I gave these two agents the ability to answer any question they have knowledge about, but also any question they could rely on on one of these MCP servers. So if I would ask a question about data, I expect it to use the Luzmo MCP. If I ask it a question about Cloudflare, I expect it to answer that question. And I could also mix it up. So let's try something that's a little bit more complex than a simple basic question. Like, and I have many data sets connected, probably over hundreds. I'm going to specific. What are my last quarter's sales in the 50,000 sales data set, and how should I scale Cloudflare workers? A typo shouldn't even matter. So these are actually two questions. So what I expect the agent now to do is to figure out, hey, these are two different questions. I'm going to see if I have some tools to answer those. And you already see, yeah, it's going to use the Luzmo MCP and the Cloudflare MCP, and it will rely on these MCPs to pull the answer. This will take a little bit of time. The agent gets the answer back. It will take a look at that now and then decides what it's going to show us. So you see actually that in this question might not have been specific enough. No data came back for OpenAI, and the other one neither. But it's able to have a look at data and use the right MCP. So let me retry this and actually ask something that allows us to show a chart in here as well. Who's my best sales rep in the demo data set? And then I hope it's going to pick the same data set as we're using in the demo app I was just showing. Because again, if you're running an agent like this and you're using one of these SDKs, it's very easy to just, with one line configuration, add the Luzmo MCP in it, allow it to query data sets that you have connected through Luzmo. And we offer ready-to-go components to also allow your agent to visualize that data in a chart. Okay, I'm not having luck in this environment with actually pulling the data. So that's the unfortunate thing of a live demo where it did work this morning. But you see that it's very easy actually to connect the MCP, and you have to take my word on it that when indeed data is coming back, that it will show up in a nice chart, because Luzmo has those standalone components that you can easily use to translate whatever that MCP returns in chart object to translate that to a live visualization. And again, then you could offer your users tools like, hey, there's a visualization in chat that I might want to come back to, so let me add that to an existing dashboard, or let me store that somewhere and make it automatically update to the latest data each time I look at it, because Luzmo charts are always live data. All right, I think, Lena, I don't see questions come in yet, but those are the two most most common use cases now for MCP, allowing data analysis with visualizations consistent with your own app inside third-party tools like the Cloud app, as I showed, or making it really easy to just plug in data analysis and data visualization skills into your own agent by providing that MCP, hosted MCP link to your own agent. And again, the difference with like other common MCP servers that you're probably already familiar with is that we allow a lot of options for authentication and setting the right user settings and context, so that when it's embedded into your own, that is indeed behaving as you want to and consistent with the rest of your agent, and that it's using the data that it should have access to for that specific user.
And I have a quick question for you, because at the beginning you mentioned agent skills or Luzmo skills that you can also use in Claude, for example. Do you feel that skills are complementary to the use of MCP? Should they be used separately? Are there different use cases for those? Can you quickly cover that as well? Because this has come up previously, and I think it will be a helpful explanation as well.
Yeah, so your question is, if you're building with Luzmo, not embedding, then why did we choose to provide agent skills instead of a full MCP also for tasks like creating a dashboard, connecting data, transforming data, etc. Both could be a good option, and you actually see a lot of companies pick the MCP choice there. But I think something has changed there over the past half year or so. Agents have become smarter, and when you already have a powerful API, agents don't necessarily need an MCP on top of that API anymore to interact with your API, and in this case, to interact with Luzmo. So what we did is we chose for Luzmo skills which are basically, like I said, guidelines guidelines and information about best practices and common pitfalls on how to build with Luzmo through our API. So those skills combined with our API are a lot more lightweight. There's a lot of less context and code that you load into your own agent, but it has the same power because it basically points your agent to our API and documentation. And any extra context that an MCP would otherwise add is added by our agent skills. We also, when you install it as a cloud plugin, in this example, we also include our MCP, so that can also definitely be used. But with agents being as smart as they are today, a really good, powerful public API, which we have because Luzmo's API first, plus a set of skills are often the more powerful and for your agent, the more lightweight approach to get to that same result.
And I guess one more question that I have, a bit of a rookie one. If someone watching this feels a little intimidated by having to install the skills, study the developer doc, set up the MCP, from your experience, how labor intensive is this? Do you need to have days or months of time reserved for setting up something like that, or what would be your estimate for giving it at least a first pass, a first run?
Yeah, I'd say it's both fairly simple and straightforward. So if you would go to our agent skills, and I see that Lena shared them, if you're not if you're not a developer or a technical person, it might look a little bit daunting. But just try the quick install in a terminal, and it walks you through it, and you're basically there. And you can also even make it simpler if you don't want to copy paste or do any commands. Just tell your agent, give your agent the link to the documentation, and tell your agent, whatever that agent is, hey, install this skill for me, and it will figure it out. So you don't need to do this all yourself. You can rely on your agent to just tell it, hey, I got this link from Luzmo. Can you install this for me? And it will figure it out. So that's an easy way to go with the agent skills. For the MCP, if you think, hey, this is cool, and I actually would love to for example, offer my own users a data analysis MCP, but we don't have an agent yet, or we're working on that, and we don't have an MCP yet to plug this into. Make sure to get in touch with us, because an easy way to do it and already offer value quickly is to just proxy our MCP. So what I was showing with the Sales Compass app, and I can maybe Lena showed it a bit more in depth. Going to try that by sharing my screen again to the Cloud app. So what I did here, and I'm going to show the connector, is I've added the Sales Compass MCP. But the Sales Compass MCP is basically just an MCP server of Sales Compass that's proxying, that's under the hood entirely the Luzmo hosted MCP server. So it's Sales Compass branded, but we did not have to change anything to create that Sales Compass MCP. The one thing that you would want to add, because your users would you would want to make it easy for your users to log in. Let me show that. Is that if a user installs your MCP and the user taps connect, that there's a nice login page. So it's automatically logging me in again. So it has reminded that. But there's a nice login page on your site that probably already exists that authenticates the MCP. But if this is something that you would like to offer or investigate, hey, how could we do this quickly on our side? Get in touch with us because it's fairly simple. On our side, we've set up everything, and we can help with that last piece of making sure users have a way to edit, find it, and authenticate.
Yeah, that
Is that
sounds
what
really.
is that what you were after, Lena? Is that
Yes, absolutely. And I really like that you mentioned this possibility explicitly, that you don't necessarily just need to use the Luzmo MCP, but you can actually use it as a proxy for building your own server. Maybe it's going to be the first MVP you run, maybe it's going to be sufficient for your needs. So yeah, a great use case for that as well. And we're coming up on time. I'm not seeing any questions across the platforms we're streaming. But for anyone who is watching this in the recording, potentially, again, we encourage you to check out Luzmo Developer Docs, where you can find pretty much everything on setting up and using the MCP, installing agent skills, and using Luzmo via API. And in case you have any follow up questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And we look forward to seeing you in a week for another quick show and tell from the Luzmo team. Thanks, Jasper, for joining.
Thanks, Lena. Thanks, everyone, for joining.